So what's happening? How are we doing in Canada these days?
Yeah, I heard that rumor too.
Yeah,
it's been a while. How's Canada treating you, buddy?
Oh, it's cold, man. Well, right now it's not. It's kind of nice because, get up by the frigid and, the Arctic and the Arctic Circle. It gets a little cold, but, that's okay. We make do, kill a caribou, get the oil from that to heat our lamps for the long winters that are up there, for sure. And the other rumor I heard is that we're working with Michael Carlin. I mean, oh my God, there's so many rumors and so much that's gone on since you and I have done the shows, and it's just insane. And I think that's part of the reason why, I wanted to get back with you and start talking and do this, because this, we just let the lunatics run the asylum at this point. And the one that gets me the maddest is the perception that somehow Reggie Wright Jr. has, quote unquote, somehow run me off the internet or run you off the internet. Last I remember, we chose to get off the internet. That was before Reggie started becoming an MC and hosting his own show.
All I gotta say is how the mighty have fallen. I didn't know that Reggie Wright wanted to be a YouTuber. I mean, what do you say to those people that you capitulated to Reggie, that now that Reggie's talking, that, you guys have a truce and you don't believe anything that was in the movies?
Well, I mean, the funny thing about it, and this is, Reggie and I had a conversation on the phone where, and I've got the phone records to prove it. He called my ass. I didn't call him. He called my ass, and he wanted to have a truce with me, and he wanted to stop, all the back and forth stuff that was going on, largely because of Terrell Foster jumping in the middle of all this shit and getting into it. He called me wanting a truce, and so finally I capitulated. I said, okay, fine, we get a truce. I was done with it at that time. I had other things to concentrate on, like, my kid was at camp and shit. I have other things to deal with, other things that are priorities. My life doesn't revolve around, a day in Reggie Wright's life. And so, I said, fine, yeah, I really don't have much to say about it at this point. And, we can declare a truce and, we're just going to stay in our own lanes, and that's that. Well, guess what? I mean, there's not a single day that goes by, a week that goes by, where these clowns aren't mentioning my name, and now they decided they're going to start reinventing history with Frank. And I think it's funny because they're letting people think that they somehow ran me off the internet or somehow ran you off the internet being a YouTuber, that they have somehow made us run from something. And of course, that's when you got to get back on, because when they start dropping my name and Terrell Foster starts dropping my name and making threats against me, physical threats, then it's time to jump back on the horse and say, okay, you know what, I guess all bets are off at this point. So we'll start talking and we'll get back on there again, because I'm just tired of the lies. I mean, there's just so many layers of bullshit, and that really bugs me, dude.
Well, I stopped listening to Terrell because it sounded like two females screaming at each other on the Jerry Springer show.
Well, to me, it's just, I've never seen a person filled with more hatred, and there's not one single person in the entire story here, me, you, Gav, Late Legend, Tunique, Reggie. I mean, there's not one person, Greg Katie, there's not one person that this guy hasn't offended and hasn't said negative things about. I mean, I remember when this guy first got started, and he had a podcast he was doing, and he interviewed me for the podcast, and I really wanted to help him out. I mean, he wanted to say bad things about Mike Carlin, and Mike Carlin and I weren't talking at that time, and he wanted to know how to get at Mike Carlin, and you try to help people, try to give them the tools that they need to be able to, go investigate and go find out the things that they want to do, and that's what they do. They take it, they run with it. And, and so he decided to, dox Michael Carlin. And then, of course, and it's convenient to blame me for all of that, too, because, I guess it's easy to say you don't know shit, and of course it's all RJ because you couldn't do any of that on your own. But there's not one person that Chaya Smith or Terrell Foster, whatever he's going by today, what he's not willing to do to insult somebody. Okay, I mean this whole channel just thrives off that, off the hate and the insults, and I just found it distasteful. I just found it to be the same shit over and over again.
Well, I mean, to top it off, and I don't want to make this whole show about Terrell Foster, and I see everybody here in the chat. I just want to say, I saw a smaller YouTuber. I tried to give him praise. I tried to lift him up, and all he had was nothing but praise for Battle for Compton. And as soon as Reggie Wright comes along and offers him some interview contacts, he flipped faster than a pancake at IHOP at 2:30 in the morning. So,
and meanwhile, texting me the entire time, telling me, Team RJ, Team RJ, Team RJ. I'm going to find out stuff about Reggie, and I'm going to dig for it, and and you can use that stuff, whatever. That was the big get as far as he was concerned, and I was a sucker. I mean, I fell for it.
Yeah, he told me he was playing out of Team RJ's playbook, but I just think it's just a case of him selling out, and that's fine. People are entitled to do what they want to do, and they can chase their popularity as far as they think they'll get it. But as far as when it comes to race baiting and just putting out spite on the internet, I backed away from it because this was supposed to be about Tupac. And it stopped being about Tupac for a lot of people. I don't even know what's going on with half these channels.
Well, because listen, here's the thing. And, and as far as I'm concerned, Reggie broke the truth by saying nasty things about me online, and that was several weeks ago. And so, the way I'm looking at it is this. It's real simple. In all of the talking, I mean, these guys get on there and all they do is just jaw-jack each other. I mean, it's painful to listen to because Reggie's got all these stories about this and stories about that. Now he's got stories about Frank Alexander. And he just did a whole interview with Gavin Sam where he's talking about, Frank and what was the truth about Frank's relationship with Tupac and stuff like that. And I find it very funny that while Frank was alive, this guy was too much of a coward to say anything while Frank Alexander was around. It wasn't like Frank wasn't saying all this stuff before. You had plenty of chance to speak up about it, and you didn't. You didn't say anything about it. And now that Frank's dead, and you seem to have the mic, you're just running around making up stories, and that's all they are. They made up stories because, again, if there was a single ounce of proof to any of it, why aren't you showing the proof? I mean, you want to sit there and say like Kading does, oh, it's this way, and oh, it's that way, and oh, it's this way, and oh, it's that way. But, ultimately, it's just stories. I mean, it's like fucking Harry Potter. I mean, it's a good story. People like to hear it. People like to know about the old days of death row, and I don't deny Reggie that. I mean, he was there. He was at death row with Suge Knight, letting artists get killed on his watch as the security guy. I mean, when you talk about the word security, you think of what? Peace, quiet, safety, people feel safe. And, for the guy who's supposed to be in charge of that, there wasn't a single safe person in that entire place. Okay? And so when you think about that, but I mean, that's the people that this is the guy that people want to look up to. He's a fucking failure as a security guy to begin with. He took a disability leave at the police department because he, ran over his own foot or, got into a car accident or something. I think his deposition said he was in a car accident. But I don't deny or debate that Reggie has some stories from death row to tell, and if that's what he wants to get on there and talk about that, that's fine. But we had an agreement when he called me and I called him back and I was up at my kid's camp, and we had an agreement that I was going to jump offline, and I wasn't going to mention anything about him because I had other things going on. I'm working on another book. I got other things going on that I really didn't have any interest in mentioning him. They used that as a free ticket to ride and run me down and say bad things about me and not correct the fans. And I think that's even the worst part, that they don't course correct the fans when the fans are saying, hey, this guy's a piece of shit and da-da-da-da-da. They just eat it up. They think that's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, I think it's tribalism at its best. But I will say this about Reggie. I mean, recently he came out and said that he was more well-respected by street guys than Suge Knight was. I think it's very odd that someone who's playing the innocent security is now pulling the card that he was respected by street dudes. And my question to Reggie would be, what were you, Reggie? Were you a street dude or were you security? Because those two don't go hand in hand. And no matter how you slice it, I mean, the guy was responsible for protecting Tupac that night. It was his company, and Tupac ended up dead.
Right. And then, of course, he always says that nobody could have ever stopped that. Nobody could have prevented that. Dude, there's a lot of ways that people can prevent those things from happening because drive-bys don't happen to celebrities on average. Okay? They just don't happen. And so, you know, you look at that and you say, okay, fine. All right, so you don't want to believe that Reggie was involved in anything more insidious. Let's just say that he was the most incompetent person that, you know, any kind of security company could have ever hired, much less run the security company. I mean, that's the part about it. You know, he's never given a clear explanation as to why there weren't walkie-talkies there for enough for everybody, why he couldn't get one for somebody if they were short, why they didn't make sure Frank had his gun on him. You know, why these things happen and why they allowed people that convicted felons that had guns, why they weren't checking them to make sure that they didn't have guns. I mean, these are all things that little by little, he's just managed to kind of get away from the point. I mean, if he wants to be a radio star YouTuber, that's fine. But why don't you stick to the facts?
You know, speaking of Reggie, since, you know, we're talking about him anyway, why isn't he in jail?
I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, I would like to know, since Reggie was given immunity in the Biggie case, immunity from prosecution in the Biggie case, probably from Greg Kading, but he himself said he has immunity in the Biggie case. I'd like to know what that immunity was for. I mean, if Reggie wants to be in the, you know, the whole snitch thing and wants people to think he's not, you know, not being a snitch in the Grape Street killing or shooting killings, in the Grape Street drug case, and he's not a snitch and all those kind of things, you know, that's fine. But I would sure like to know what it is he got immunity for, because obviously, unless he was part of the Poochie Faust coordination to have, or getting orders from Suge to have Poochie Faust kill Biggie, like their theory says, you know, he clearly has some knowledge that he would have traded that immunity for, because you don't usually get immunity unless you've got something to offer, you've got some knowledge. And as Ice-T said, I mean, do you not call that snitching? Is that not snitching?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, back to your point, though, don't you have to be involved to get immunity? Don't you have to kind of be guilty of some kind of crime for them to say, okay, if you give us information, we're going to give you immunity?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you have nothing to hide or you have nothing that they could find you criminally culpable for, you wouldn't need to ask for immunity, okay? Which brings up a really damn good point. And we made this the other day, okay? I'm not a convicted felon, okay? Neither are you. We're not convicted felons, okay? We haven't decided to make it a point to break the law, to go to jail, to go to prison. I don't go around bragging to people, and I don't make it within my circle of friends a point of honor that I used to sell drugs to people, because crack ruins people's lives. And I don't care what you say about that it, you know, you supported yourself on that, because I said the same thing about Jada Pinkett Smith. You know, it ain't no damn badge of honor to run around saying that you were a former drug dealer, because what that means by definition is that you were fucking around with people's lives, okay, for your own selfish benefit. You made money off of other people's misfortune and their addictions. And if you think that's honorable, I got news for you. It's not.
Yeah, and I don't need condemnation or life advice from drug dealers, either current or past. You know, I can't be bothered with that. I don't want to hear their advice, and I don't want to hear them say that, you know, that I'm not doing the right thing. When all I want, and all I've known you for years, all I know that you want is justice for Tupac Shakur.
Right, and at the end of the day, until one particular theory is proven or disproven, anything is possible. And to sit there and close the case, I mean, if you want to believe that Orlando Anderson did it, okay, fine. You know, you can believe that Orlando Anderson did it. I think that even when what was his name, Spider, You know, Reggie interviewed Spider and Spider Lock, or Loke, Spider Loke, Spider Lock or Spider Lock. How does he pronounce it?
Spider.
Spider. You know, Spider was talking up Orlando Anderson, had good things to say about Orlando Anderson. Of course, they didn't like that idea. His interview was all of 5 minutes. You know, the guys that get on there for 4 hours and chop it up with people, you know, only had a guy who knew Orlando Anderson on there for about 5 minutes because he had good things to say about Orlando Anderson. So you know how far that went. But that's the thing. You know, if Reggie wants to get on and do a show called Death Row Days, and he wants to talk about all the glory days of, you know, hanging out with the artists and all, you know, and, you know, some of the monumental stuff that happened, I don't begrudge him that. But, you know, I still think what I think, and I'm kind of tired of the fact that people are saying that somehow I've withdrawn from the game, or that somehow you and I have less to say or got run out of town because Reggie showed up with his talk. Because all I've heard is just talk. Okay? I mean, I've just heard like a bunch of old wives sitting around spinning tales with each other. Okay? And that's, you know, and that's what a racist say. There's another racist about a bunch of old women. You know, listen, if you're a convicted felon and a liar, you're a fucking convicted felon and a liar. I don't need to be a racist to call you a convicted felon and a liar, because as far as I'm concerned, you threw your own damn credibility out the window with just those two statements.
I absolutely agree with you. And I do see everybody in the chat. We're on limited time, so we're just trying to pound out this interview.
Are we on the chat right now? Where are we at? I didn't even know. Hold on. Hang on a second. I'm not even seeing the comments. Hang on. I should be. Hang on.
One of the points that has been brought up to me is that if Reggie was so innocent, if Reggie was, you know, how can he get all these people to speak on his behalf? You know, obviously Reggie's innocent because he can get people to speak on his behalf. When I guess my answer to you guys in the chat and those listening right now is, my answer to you guys is, there's a lot of people that don't want to rock the boat with Reggie. And Reggie told me this in private on an instant message. Never let someone know your weakness. That's how Reggie operates. That's how Death Row operated. They would find someone's weakness. They would have the dirt on them, and then they would use that to get them to stay at Death Row Records or do what the gangsters at Death Row Records wanted them to do. I mean, this is the same game that's been going on for the last 20 years. So when people ask me, you know, or tell me that, well, Reggie has to be credible because he's pulling people out of the woodwork to, you know, support him, my answer to those people are, you don't know what kind of dirt Reggie has on these people. Like when he had Danny.
Well, not just that, but not just that. Let me piggyback off that for a quick second before you take it further. I know you're going further with this, but let's name names. He had Trayvon Lane on the show, and it was a big deal, and he was hyping it like Trayvon Lane was going to tell it, and everybody tuned in. Let's be frank about it. Let's be honest. Everybody was tuned in to hear what Trayvon Lane had to say about the shooting, but Trayvon Lane wasn't willing to say a damn word about the shooting or what happened that night or his role in it, because that was off limits, and you still have to ask yourself that question, why it's off limits.
Exactly. And when he had Danny Boy on there, you know, Danny Boy had a lot of choice words to say about Reggie Wright, that Reggie Wright ruined Death Row Records, that he was a fucking cop, that Tupac didn't trust fucking cops. And then, you know, flash forward a little while, and then Danny Boy's on there. And, you know, I know just from the research that I've done, the tactics that Death Row used, and this is just the same shit, different year. And to bring up another talking point, I'm not trying to be all over the place, RJ, there has been this press release now that Unsolved has hit Netflix that the Las Vegas Police Department are close to an arrest of someone involved in the killing of Tupac Shakur. Do you have an opinion on that? Would you like to talk about it?
Well, first off, where are you on chat? I mean, what are there fans actually commenting at this point?
Yes, they are. We're just blowing past them.
Okay. So check this out. Okay. If there was going to be, there would have been by now. Okay. And they've been beating that drum. You know, there's going to be an arrest. There's going to be an arrest. There's going to be an arrest. Listen, you can be an accessory after the fact to a crime, and you can do that. But see, the problem is the first thing they got to do is they got to prove that Orlando Anderson did it. because how are you covering up from somebody, or how are you actually hiding somebody that's guilty or that may be guilty if you don't have proof that they're guilty, okay? This is just an extension on it. I mean, it's somebody's wet dream that Keith Davis would sit there and tell another story on live or on TV in his interview, and I think that was an interview that was recorded for E1, and I know that Reggie's got ties with E1, and it was an interview recorded for them, and Reggie or Keith Davis said, "Oh yeah," and he told another story because he can't keep his story straight. You know, they look at it like that, and Vegas police isn't going to make an arrest. I mean, to be conspiracy for murder or an accessory for murder, there's got to be somebody convicted that you're an accessory to. I mean, and yeah, okay, Greg Kading will get on there and he'll try to get technical about it and stuff. That, yeah, they probably could arrest somebody, but what's the point of arresting somebody if you're not going to prosecute them? And ultimately, you know, it's going to be very difficult to get anybody convicted of anything regarding being an accessory or a conspiracy if they can't even prove that the person who did it allegedly actually did the crime. So it's a bunch of horse shit. It's another smoke screen. It was PR move by BET or whoever did Death Row Chronicles. You know, it's all a big PR thing. I mean, you know, I see that kind of shit all the time, but that's all it is.
Well, in my estimation, this was based off a press release. You know, when
right.
all news outlets run with it on the same day, that's because a press release has been put out. And
right.
the New York Daily News actually got to the bottom of it, called up Las Vegas Metro, and they denied being close to any arrest. So what I think people should keep in mind out there is a factor to build up publicity for a show to put a press release out there that says something that might not be true. And just to go back to my point, New York Daily News got a hold of Las Vegas Metro, and they said that they are not close to an arrest. Only official statement they've given is they're not close to an arrest.
Yeah, they said they had a chance to look at it. They reopened the case, which means they looked at what Keith Davis had to say. They looked at it. They considered it for about as long as anybody else who's ever heard anything Keith Davis has to say would consider it. And that's the end of it. I mean, it's really not something that is it's not even worth debating. I mean, they're going to get a guy in there, and any prosecutor that would even think about picking up that case would get thwarted immediately because they just roll out one or two of his tapes where he said, "Oh, that's all bullshit," and his credibility is gone. He'd never get convicted on anything. So what's the point of arresting somebody if they don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of even getting convicted? Honestly.
Now, I mean, to clarify for those people out there, RJ, did you change your mind? Do you think that Orlando Anderson killed Tupac?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was another one, yeah, that Reggie beat me down, and I admitted that my own theories are bullshit. That's not true at all. I mean, you know, I love how people reinvent history and say that because I did an interview with Reggie and I was trying to be fair, I was trying to be balanced, I was trying to be objective and neutral and be courteous with somebody, that, you know, that suddenly I've just said that all my theories are BS, all my theories are that. You know, I have questions of my own, as do many people, about many of the theories that are out there. And not every theory is 100% bulletproof, because if it was and the police had investigated it, there would be a conviction, right? I mean, that only makes sense to me. You gotta want somebody who's objective. If you're running all the time towards somebody did it, you're running all the time like that, you know, then you've got a bias. And that's what they're accusing me of doing. They're accusing me of being somehow obsessed with Reggie Wright. No, here's the deal. Reggie had even asked me from time to time to pull up information about Brandon Curcio and some other people that are involved in his court case and see what they had filed. And you can check on federal cases online. They all know how to do it, and you can check to see what's going on with it. And one of the alerts that I get is what's going on with Reggie's case, and that's no secret to anybody, no secret to Reggie or anybody else. And when I get these information, it pops up that there was a motion filed that his dad wanted to go on vacation, and he wanted to go to vacation to Puerto Vallarta, and he wanted to get time off. You know, after having worn an ankle bracelet and having his house seized and then given back, you know, clearly what you got here is you've got a prosecution problem that maybe their case is backsliding, or maybe they've gotten some value from other information that may have been provided to them. But for whatever reason they're doing it, they're clearly taking steps backwards, because how do you go from putting somebody in an ankle bracelet and home monitoring to allowing them to go on vacation while they're under federal indictment for drug trafficking and money laundering to go to Mexico? Okay? And the problem that I had with it, I didn't care if it was Reggie Wright Sr. just brought it to my attention that the prosecutor's office, U.S. Attorney's office, was okay with it. And that was my question. I wanted to know why the U.S. Attorney was okay with it. Why is he okay with somebody being under federal indictment going on vacation? If there's not enough information to hold the guy on, let him go. Don't charge him. Drop the charges against him. Let him go have his vacation in Mexico.
Yeah, but that's my point exactly. We're not talking about he's going to Tucson, Arizona to get some sun. This guy is leaving the country. And most criminals, when they leave the country, they go to Mexico because of the extradition between Mexico and the United States.
Right. The U.S. Attorney's Office themselves, R.J. Bond didn't make this shit up, okay, guys? Got news for you. You know, all you idiots that are running around following Reggie Wright and thinking that, you know, that whatever he says is gospel and whatever I say is BS. I didn't make this up. In the indictment against Reggie Wright Jr., Reggie Wright Sr., the U.S. Attorney's Office said that it was alleged they had contacts with the Mexican cartel, that they were involved with drugs and involved with the Mexican cartels. That's what the U.S. Attorney alleged, and I haven't seen a single document where they've changed that position at all. One bit. Haven't changed it at all. These guys. So my question to law-abiding citizens out there, and people that are not felons, and people that are not convicted drug dealers, and people that don't enjoy dealing drugs to people and ruining people's lives, my question is, why are we allowing people under federal indictment that have alleged ties to the cartel to take a trip down to Mexico? What sense does that make?
Yeah, and this is after we hear about Reggie Wright's immunity with Biggie. This is after his sentencing that was scheduled in March got pushed back. How long did they push back his sentencing?
December.
That's what, 9 months?
Yeah. So, I mean...
to me, that screams cooperation. That screams cooperation.
Well, I mean, the challenge... Well, no, it said that he was talking with the prosecutor's office before he even did his... before he even entered his plea agreement. Okay? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. If this were you or me... And he wants to pass it off and say that he has a good attorney, or that some of the other 22 other co-defendants I think he's got in this case, that the other 22 co-defendants in this case, you know, don't have attorneys or don't have, you know, they have bad representation or something like that. Here it is at the end of the day. If these guys were alleged to have ties to the Mexican drug cartels, I don't care who they were, and he was one of them, okay? Either he has ties to cartels or he doesn't. If he doesn't, don't charge him. If he does, charge him. But if you're going to indict him and you're going to charge him, don't let him go out of the fucking country. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think it's stunning that him and Tata Lake came out a couple years ago so strong, calling Suge Knight a snitch and, you know, accusing him of cooperating with police. And the first time that these people, like Reggie Wright and his dad, these crooked cops, get in trouble with the law, that's the first thing they do. At the very least, it's hypocritical, and at the very most, it's nefarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where, I mean, you know, these people are, you know, they run around saying that they live by the street code, they live by the street. Listen, I just live by a code of being honest. Just try to live your life honestly, you know, but and not break the law. I mean, I don't know that that's just too much to ask for some people, that they just don't know how to not do that. But you know, it's like, you know, pay my taxes. I stop at red lights and you know, and that's part of why people have credibility and why they don't. Convicted felons can't own guns. They're not supposed to own guns. They're not supposed to be a convicted felon in possession of a gun. You know, they can't vote. There's a lot of things that convicted felons can't do. They take away those rights for a reason. Being a convicted felon, newsflash, is not a cool thing. I mean, they can say, well, Tupac was a convicted felon. Was he? I mean, was he?
Well,
Jesse, was Tupac convicted felon?
He was appealing that.
What? What's that?
Tupac was out on appeal. He was appealing that.
Yeah, he was appealing the one possible alleged felony. It wasn't like he was out dealing drugs and, and yeah, everybody talks about Tupac tried to deal drugs. Most of his close friends say he tried to do it. He wasn't either very good at it, he didn't have a taste for it, he didn't like it, so he didn't do it. Okay? He didn't do it. And the rumor there, is probably because he didn't like the idea of ruining people's lives. Okay? Everything I've heard from Tupac's real friends was that Tupac was into, kind of lifting people up and doing positive things for people, not trying to ruin their lives for his own benefit. That didn't scan with me. I never saw that. In any of the interviews I've ever done with his friends, with people that worked with him, that's not what I saw. Okay? Did Tupac like to make drama? Sure, he liked to make drama, but, I've never seen Tupac somebody who intentionally want to go out, run out, and ruin people's lives. And that's what selling dope does, period.
Well, at least we're talking about Tupac. I kind of took a break because I had people telling me that it's just about money, and they're talking about things that have nothing to do with Tupac. So, I didn't upload for a while to show you that it's not about money. Because if it was about money, I'd be uploading every day. And I just got tired of the scene not being about Tupac. So, the thing that I admire most about you, RJ, is that you're consistent. And, I'm glad that you came on here just to clear stuff up. I try not to buy into all the crap that's circulating online and all the threats being thrown at you. How does that make you feel when you got people threatening the bodily harm against you?
Well, it doesn't make me feel good at all, especially when I can honestly say that when it comes to Mr. Foster or Mr. Chaya Smith or whatever his real name is, that I have not made one single threat against him. I have tried to be positive. I have tried to represent him and stick up for him when many people that were close to me said that he was going to do exactly what he ended up doing, and I said, no, he won't. He's not going to do that. No, he's not going to do that. To the point where I made myself look like a fool because of it, and and that was kind of my fault. Even when all of this negative talk was happening, stuff like that, we get on the phone and we would talk for a long time, and I was sending them pictures of my kids. It just became this whole thing. I thought the guy was my friend. I really did. And I didn't say a bad word about this guy. I tried to stick up for him every chance I could. And then of course I just become the latest person to hate and the latest person to say things about. And okay, that's fine. He's been doing that for some time. He's been saying negative things about me pretty much, repeatedly. But what I don't like and what I take offense at is the threats. He wants to threaten me. Wants to beat me up and slit my throat or do whatever he said he was going to do. That's just wrong, okay? That's just it. And I'll give Reggie this. Reggie's never done that, but of course Reggie's smart enough to realize that that's probably not a smart move. Running around threatening people is not a smart move, especially when you do it over the internet and you do it online and you do it on a YouTube video where that can be turned over to the police. I would have thought that, Terrell would have learned from when he called the Vegas police and tried to fuck around with the Vegas police, and they called the Detroit police, and the Detroit police showed up at his front door. I would have thought that would have given him some indication that news travels fast, But again, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say the same thing that I've been saying all along. You know me, Jesse. I'm like you. I try to give people a hand up. I try to help. With Janique was trying to get stuff out with Michael, who wanted to help out. He wanted to create a YouTube channel and do his thing. I gave him information. I gave him some statements that Kevin Hackney had given me. I gave him that information, and he turned tail. And then other people, done the same thing too. And I won't stop helping people. But at the same time, it gives me a lot of pause because all these people, when they had nobody, they had no YouTube channel at all, they had no presence at all, and I'm helping them out, giving them information and helping them to have topics to put online and things like that. something that might be kind of interesting to see. And then what do I get? I get people threatening my life. That sucks, man. It just really sucks. It's a little kick in the face.
Yeah. I got fed up with it when I realized once the gravy train of information stopped rolling that certain people turned into race baiting pimps. And once it became about that, it's just not a topic that I'm real fond of talking about. I want to talk about who killed Tupac. I want to talk about the life of Tupac. And, I want to talk about the new Russell Poole movie. And we haven't got a chance to broach that. Do you have any opinions?
No. Say it again?
Do you have any opinion on the trailer for City of Lies?
Well, I like it. And I think that they're sticking to a couple of stereotypes about Russ that have been very popular to do. I like it. I think the greatest thing in the world about it is that it's going to get the name of Russell Poole out in front of millions of people, not a few million or a million or 500,000 people like Unsolved got. I've got their ratings. I think they, at most they've reached maybe 500,000 people. But you're talking about millions, if not billions of people in China and all over the world are going to want to know who Russ Poole is. And they're going to find out a story about Russ Poole. And there's no stopping that train. And I think that's what all this screaming is about. I mean, the funny thing about it, Jesse, is, they calmed down on you when you went away, and then they started bringing my name back up again because some people just can't keep, as they say, can't keep my, out of their mouth. I just think that the screaming is getting louder and the dialogue is getting louder because they know that their reach, no matter how hard they yell and scream, their reach isn't going to be anything close to what the reach is of City of Lies and the worldwide interest that it's going to have in the subject matter. They can't even get close to it. And, of course, the minute that comes up, it's going to start talking about cops working for Death Row Records. And when they talk about cops working for Death Row Records, guess where the heat turns? Okay? At the end of the day, guess where the heat goes?
Right to Reggie Wright.
Yeah. I mean,
and then I guess then the topic of his immunity in the Biggie Smalls case might hit a bigger audience.
Well, that's the point. I mean, like I said, but that's why they're screaming. They're screaming at you and me, and they make fun of Russell Poole, and they say nasty things about Russell. They even say nasty things about Russell Poole's family. They have such low class that they go out there and they start making insults to Kurt Poole, and who's Russ's son. And what has Kurt Poole done to anybody? Okay? That's the thing. What has he done to anybody? Oh, I'm sorry, he insulted Reggie, or he may not like Reggie. Well, guess what? There are people that we may not like in this world, and that's fine. But to go out there and start trying to drag Kurt Poole in the middle of it, to me, it's just desperation. It's desperation. It's attention grabbing. It's, the closest thing I can say is it's almost like when you have a child and your child needs that negative attention, so they yell and they scream and they say nasty things about you. It's like, you've seen these children who stay at home until they're 25 years old, and finally the parents say, look, you got to get out. You got to go out on your own. What's the first thing those kids say? Oh, you're a terrible parent. Oh, you never loved me. Well, motherfucker, we let you stay in our house for 25 years. You stayed 7 years past your welcome, and now you got this problem where you're staying over your welcome, and we're telling you got to man up and do your own thing. And of course, what happens? Then you're a terrible parent, and then you're a horrible person, and nothing but anger and nothing but hate. And that's this is what this reminds me of. It reminds me of somebody who, when I blocked his number and I blocked Reggie's number after Reggie sent me a copy of the threats, okay, which came from Reggie, and Reggie sent me copies of the threats saying that somebody needs to, quote-unquote, check me and this kind of thing. And he sent me those, and I blocked him, and I blocked the rest.
Reggie's sending you copies of other people's threats?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. He texted them to me. And so when those get out there and I block those people, of course I expected them to be a reaction because, they got to have that negative attention. They want you know, they want to get RJ to say something so that they have something to talk about, you know, because it was nice. I mean, you know, it was nice that Reggie could get Spider Loca on there to talk about Orlando Anderson, but that was a 5-minute interview. Okay, he can get people on there that have nothing to talk about, who want to talk about the records and that, but talking about the Tupac stuff, they don't, you know, that doesn't want to seem to go anywhere. But again, you know, they want to think that we're out of it. We're not out of it, not by a long shot. I've enjoyed the time off, quite honestly. I've been able to get some things done. And I'm here to say, for the record, if you are a convicted dope dealer that slung crack and you're proud of it, and if you are a convicted felon or a convicted dope dealer, you know, and you don't like me, I'm hurt. Okay? I don't need you as a fan. I don't want you as a fan. I could give a crap whether or not you're a fan of what I do or what I have to say. And I don't give a crap about what you think about whether or not I'm a racist or not. Okay? Bottom line is, the people who I look toward for respect, the people that I look to for validation, those people don't have those problems. Those people don't have those things. And they can say, oh, RJ, you just alienated half the Tupac fans out there. No, that's not true. Because there's a whole new generation of kids that don't know anything about Tupac, that don't understand what Tupac was about, that hear this negative bullshit and about Tupac, and, you know, that stuff is for a new generation of kids that didn't know him, and for the people that kind of did know him. But no, I don't think we're going to lose our audience at all. I think there's more people interested in what really happened and why people are talking about it, because, you know, like I said, I give a crap if you're my fan or not. If you're a convicted drug dealer, I don't care if you think I'm a racist. If you're a convicted drug dealer, okay?
Yeah, but, well, for those young fans out there that might not understand fully what Tupac was notorious for putting anti-drug messages in his songs. There's songs like Dope Fiend's Diner that has a message about drug dealers. Tupac was not a black ethno-state advocate. I mean, he said, one of his famous quotes, and it's in the Resurrection movie, is, every black man is not your brother and every white man is not evil. And I want people out there to know that Tupac had political aspirations. Tupac wanted to be bigger than just a musician. He wanted to lead a movement. And I think that people get it mixed up when they think, and, you know, I've interviewed a lot of people when I say, what's the biggest misconception of Tupac? And the biggest answer I get is that he was a criminal. You know, even people close to Tupac knew that that's not what Tupac was about. Tupac had bigger aspirations than being a low-level street dealer.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Gregory used to say Tupac had cases in every state. Well, yeah, it's because the cops were yanking him off stage for obscenity. They were yanking him off stage for things, chasing him around for those kinds of cases. Yeah, he had cases. And yeah, he shot at 2 cops in Atlanta. But if you listen to the people that were actually there, not these ne'er-do-wells who like to tell the story, and I've heard from the people, Watani and other people that were actually there when it happened, there was a lot more going on than just Tupac being a bad guy and shooting at some cops. Okay, let's not go there with that. Okay, but so I don't, you know, I've interviewed enough people and I know enough people personally who knew him for a lot longer than he was at fucking Death Row Records. And, you know, it's funny because Reggie just said something in an interview that I listened to not more than about an hour ago. He wanted to talk about the time, and he wanted to talk about Frank Alexander's relationship with Tupac and how long Frank really must have known Tupac. And he talks about a basketball game that he and Kevin Hackey and Tupac were at in February of 1996. Okay, so yeah. So if you're going to sit there, you're going to sit there and say that somebody's relationship with somebody else or how well they really knew that person is based on the short amount of time that they knew that person. Look, motherfucker, you got, what, Death Row was November of 1995, okay? Reggie Wright's orbit didn't come anywhere around Tupac until a year before he died, okay?
Exactly.
That's it. Okay? And when you're talking about someone who was in their 20s, that's 1/20 of the time or 5% of the time. So you got a channel dedicated to a guy who rants and raves and goes on for 4 hours a week talking about a relationship with somebody that he had for less than a year. Well, guess what? By your own token, Reggie, you sit there and you want to talk about that Frank must not have known Tupac all that well because of the shortness of time. Well, you know, you didn't know Tupac all that well because you're only with him for a year. And if you think that that's what makes a person, then you don't have that perspective because you didn't even know who he was before that happened, before he went to Death Row Records. That's it.
That's a great point. And RJ, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm not trying to cut you off. I just know we're both pressed for time. I just want to ask if you're going to come back and maybe, you know, in the near future, we do a live stream like we used to do, where we're on camera talking to each other instead of the phone call. I mean, is that something that you'd be willing to do? And thanks for everybody who's watching right now, by the way.
Yeah, you know, thank you guys. I didn't get a chance to pull it up on the link for the people online. Sorry about that. But the truth of the matter is, I've had hesitation and I've had reservations about doing the YouTube thing, only because it's so easy now with a false claim and with a false allegation to have somebody's video taken down or copyright struck or terms of service guidelines or whatever other, you know, crystal china reason you can have for YouTube just to yank something off. You know, it's almost to the point where unless there's a medium, and maybe we'll do a podcast or something like that, but unless there's a medium that I can't let some person that's the lowest common denominator make a lie like Judy Lachowski did, where she lied and said that she owned all the Michael Moore material and that she has, you know, his I forget, she was heir to his estate or something like that, and had all my YouTube channel taken down because of false claims. You know, when you have that, what's the point of wanting to get on that medium if your information or the work that you do is so easily knocked out of the park? So,
yeah,
you know, I want, you know, good.
No, absolutely. I want people to know when, you know, Reggie Wright started doing his live streams on Bomb First, you know, he said that his goal was to destroy my channel. And I've had no less than 10 copyright strikes from January 2008 until present. I've just now beat all the strikes. That is how they were trying to overcome. It was by silencing us, because when they don't have a good argument against the facts that we're presenting, the next step is just to silence. So I absolutely hear what you say. I agree with you, because it's been happening to me. And that's something that the public doesn't know, because I've been taking my time, like with DJ AG taking down the patent video. I had to spank his ass and counter-strike him and go through the whole long process just to get my channel back in good standing, because that's their tactic and that's their game.
And again, it's just one of those things where I don't want to put the word out for people that can just, you know, with a lie, have that stuff taken offline and invalidate the work that we'll do. So we'll figure out a way to get it out there. But the message is this, okay? You know, vacation's over. Time to get back to work. You know, these guys have had free run of my silence to be able to say, hey, you're silent, to be able to basically say whatever the hell they want to say about anything. Nobody's fact-checking them. Nobody's going in and giving any kind of a reality check to what's being said. They just say what they want to say. And again, I don't really care. If they want to lie to the public or they want to make up stories and they want to tell tales, that's on them. That's what they can do. And if people want to sit there and be entertained and have a good story, that's their choice too. I'm not saying don't watch Bomb First and don't watch Reggie Wright's channel and don't watch, you know, Terrell Foster's channel. You know, you want to watch them, you want to be mildly entertained, or you're into, you know, verbal abuse, or you're into that kind of conflict and that kind of turmoil and turbulence and negative energy, then that's your choice. You're welcome to do that. But the people that I'm interested in talking with, the people that I'm interested to, need to be a little higher minded. They need to be a little more focused on positive things. They need to be focused on productive things. And, you know, and that's really, you know, what we're doing. And again, you know, clear message. Again, like I said, if you have a lifestyle that promotes people's deficits and promotes things of like hatred and that. I don't need you as a fan. I don't want you as a fan. If you think that ruining people's lives by selling drugs is a good thing, and you think it's a way to make a living, and you think that that's a good thing to do, I don't want you as a fan. I don't need you as a fan. And more importantly, I give a crap about what you have to say about me personally. That's it.
Yep, and I've always kept it above the belt with arguments and counter-arguments, but the type of people that will put my mom's house, name, address, kid's name, those are dirty dealers. And just like I said before, when you run out of arguments, you have to devolve into different tactics, and I just don't want to roll in the mud with these people. Once again, RJ, I really appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for everybody that's listening. If there's something that you want to add, please do. But I just want to say, man, it's good talking to you.
It's good to talk to you, Jesse. You know, like I said, it's been awful cold up here in Canada. You know, keep the moose and the caribou and all that. You know, and got to keep them fed and keep them out of trouble. But like I said, just it was a good time off. But you know, all good things must come to an end, I guess. So time for us to get back into the conversation.
Well, man, I look forward to it. Thanks for calling in. And we're definitely going to answer your guys' questions on the next one. I just wanted to get this out there and stream it live to make sure the live capability is still there. Thanks for everybody that tuned in, and thank you, RJ.
Yeah, bye.